Every real game developer started the same way, by building something that barely works. And that's how you separate the ones who actually make games from the ones who just binge tutorials. Because when you stop watching and start breaking things, that's when you learn faster than 99% of other beginners. So here's how you do that step by step from your first experiment all the way through preparing for your first game. So the first thing I want to say, if you are a complete beginner and you don't know how to do anything, what I'm going to tell you is to watch a around 2-hour introduction video to your game engine, where you can familiarize yourself with like the basic concepts and like basic scripting, so you know what a variable, a function is, and how to use the game engine, things like that. But if you've already been stuck in tutorial hell for like a few weeks or a few months, then you don't need that, because then you already know like the basics. And what I'm going to tell you instead is to just start experimenting with the things that you can. Even though you might think it's not that much, I want you to start experimenting without tutorials, without using AI. Just do the things that you can. Do experiments. I want you to open a game engine. I want you to write some code where you do things that you know how to do, and you experiment with new things around that. So the loop I want you to be in is to just test, like implement things that you already know, and then test things around that. You see the result, and then you repeat. So you constantly get feedback. This works, this doesn't work, this works, this doesn't work. Like it's a constant loop of constant feedback, and you're actually using things practically. So you're going to learn so quickly because you just get constant feedback, which is something that you don't get at all with tutorials, because you're just watching someone else that already know the solution. So if you do this, honestly, 10 times the boost to your learning, because when you watch tutorials, you don't even learn it like slowly. You don't learn it at all, because the only thing you're doing when you watch a tutorial is to recognize the thing but not understand it. When we're experimenting, we're going to understand the things that we're actually doing, and we're going to get constant feedback, so it's going to be awesome for our learning. And I don't want you to like, okay, now I'm going to learn how to make a Momo system, now I'm going to learn how to like make a store and economy system. No, I don't want you to do that. I want you to learn one thing at a time. Only one thing. One line of code at a time. Because if you wanted to like learn at this stage where you're at, where you can't like make basic systems yourself, if you just started like building these things so early, you won't be able to like actually remember and understand the things that you actually did. And most likely you won't be able to like complete it at all. But even if you were, you would rely so much on like external resources and things that you wouldn't understand. So you're actually not going to learn the things that you're actually doing. So the whole point of this stage is to learn, and if you're doing things that are too hard for you, then you're not going to understand them. So I don't want you to make like entire systems at this stage. At this stage, I want you to learn one thing at a time. So how to get movement, how to like change a color, how to add force, very like basic things. And whilst you're actually doing this, you're at the same time learning the syntax, and you're learning like the logic behind this, which is going to be essential when you're making like bigger systems. And this knowledge isn't something that you have already, so that's why you can make bigger systems at this stage. But we'll talk more about that later. But when you're doing this, I want you to have a desirable difficulty to everything that you have. So I don't want the things that you're doing to be like super easy, where you just Google the solution immediately and implement the thing that you found on Google. What I want you to do is to struggle like a little bit with things before you end up searching for the solution. And ideally, you're going to like guess your way through the solution yourself. That's like the ideal scenario. But like everything that you do shouldn't be too hard, shouldn't be too easy. You want to have a desirable difficulty to everything that you do. Like in research, this has been shown to like make you remember things up to 80% better. It's insane. So if you just nail like having this desirable difficulty in everything that you do, you're going to learn so quickly, man. So keep that in mind. That kind of comes into like why I recommended you use Google instead of like just using AI when you're going to like search for a solution. Why you don't just use AI or tutorials? I mentioned Google specifically because this gives you this desirable difficulty that we talked about. And if you're doing something or like trying to guess something that you can't like easily find the solution for on Google, then it's going to be too hard for you. Like, as I said, I wanted to do one specific thing at a time. You can basically find everything on Google, or not basically, you can find everything on Google, because all the game engines, they have documentation. Like Unity have documentation about like every single line of code in the entire like Unity engine. Unreal has it, Godot has it, like all game engine has documentations about everything. So I wanted to use Google, and also it's going to be like a desirable difficulty thing, because finding something on Google, it's not too easy and it's not too hard. I'm also briefly going to talk about when to use AI, because I know this is like a very big topic right now, let's just say. So at this stage, I don't want to use AI basically at all, because it's going to be so easy. Like, you remember what we talked about this like desirable difficulty? AI is going to be like on the easier end of that, like maybe like the easiest you can possibly get. So that's why I don't want you to use AI. And also, I've tried using it for learning before, and it's not good, honestly. It's going to tell you the answer way too quickly, at least in my opinion, and the AIs that I've used. Even if you tell it to be like your coach, not to tell you the solution, it's going to give you like more information than you ideally want either way, like no matter how you prompt AI, in my experience. So I don't want to use AI, except for this one thing, and that's if you paste your own code into ChatGPT, for example, like an AI, and you ask it to review it and find mistakes, find flaws, things like that. But I don't want to do like constantly do that. Do it occasionally and try to actually apply the things so that you can learn it. And then I'm going to clarify when to use tutorials. Tutorials, that's going to be used for concept overviews, and it's going to be around 10 to 20% over time. And it's not going to replace your learning. What it's going to do is that it's going to be a supplement to your learning. And your main learning is going to be this building and experimenting. So when you're done like the experiments for long enough, you're probably going to want to make like more useful things than just changing a color and getting input. So the next stage, after you're like experimenting and you feel like comfortable making like slightly bigger systems, what I wanted to do is to start making prototypes, and ideally it's going to be prototypes that you can use in your dream game, like reusable systems. So these prototypes, it can basically be just expansions of your experiments. So for example, if you're making an experiment with just experimenting with like a UI system, then you can expand on that and you can make it into like a store page, for example, like a store page and a simple economy system. You can expand like getting player input into like a movement system, things like that. So just expand your experiments into prototypes and ideally reusable systems that you can use in your first or dream game. And this is very important because this is a mistake like 90% of you guys would have done if I didn't like remind you of it. And that's going to be that you still need a desirable difficulty at this stage, because you aren't an expert yet. You still need the desirable difficulty to actually improve, because it's very easy at this stage to think like, okay, now I know enough. Now I can just use Google, I can use AI, I can use tutorials much more than I did previously. But you don't want to do that, like especially AI. You don't want to dramatically increase your like external resources just because you are a little bit more advanced, because you aren't advanced enough yet to like focus on purely building something that's perfect instead of learning. Like you still want to learn, because what we're doing right now is just preparing and building the necessary skills for our first game. So you don't want to like learn less by using AI more or like forgetting this desirable difficulty. You still want to have desirable difficulty because you still need to learn more things. Now, after you made some prototypes for like a few weeks, the next stage is going to be preparing and finishing your first game. And if you want to have this, like this entire video basically just stretch out along multiple hours, where I tell you like a step-by-step guide on how you're going to experiment, prototype, like everything from downloading in the game engine to experimenting, prototyping, preparing for your first game, and actually finishing your first game, all the mistakes that you can make throughout the process. If you want all of that covered in a step-by-step guide, then you can join Smart Indie, which is the first link in the description, and it's going to help you dramatically. But either way, I want to say thank you for watching this video, and comment down below what your first experiment is going to be. Thank you for watching.